let's go now to John in Golders Green. Good evening.
Good evening, Daniel. I bought a suitcase for someone, for a friend of mine, and it's one of those suitcases that are specifically designed so that you can put them in the overhead lockers, overhead cabins upstairs on one of the budget airlines. They went on a trip. They mistakenly didn't check it in because they thought they could fit it as an underseat bag, which is of course free. So when they got to the gate, the airline said, "Sorry, this is too big to put under the seat. You have to pay and put it above the seat in the overhead." Fine. So they tried to pay cash, and the airline said, "No, we don't accept cash." And here's the bit. They said, "Fine, we'll pay with a credit card." But the airline's credit card machine was not working. And as a result, they had to empty the contents of this suitcase into their other belongings and leave and go on their journey without the suitcase. And the current situation is the suitcase was basically confiscated at the gate by the airline, and they don't know what to do in terms of getting their suitcase back or claiming for the fact that, I've told them, but I'm not a barrister, that I think the airline had a duty to make sure that his credit card machine was working if you tried to legitimately pay and they wouldn't accept cash.
That's an extraordinary story, John. I've never heard anything like that before. So the suitcase is currently still in the UK and your friends aren't in the UK?
No, they're back. They're back from holiday.
Right. Have they contacted the airline to say, where's my suitcase?
Yes, they have. But, to me, there are two issues. Number one, how to get the case back. But number two, surely, if they don't accept cash, it's their responsibility.
Well, I'll deal with number two. I'll deal with number two in a second. But number one, if they still haven't got the case back, is it on the way back to them? Have they contacted the person to say...
They've contacted the airline, but these things take weeks. It's been about a month so far.
Okay, but you're mainly asking about the credit card issue.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. There's a legal and a moral.
They've stolen the case.
There's a legal and a moral thing here, John, and the two don't always match up very nicely. Legally, the airline has absolutely no duty to take luggage that's not been paid for. And although they might be willing normally to accept money to store the bag above the seats in the overhead lockers, they're under no legal obligation to take the money. And your friends were mistaken here to fail to pay in advance. And the airline is quite entitled to say, nope, we're not putting it on the plane. You can either get off the plane and go back home or whatever you want to do. So legally, you can't compel them to take a credit card payment to take the money. Morally, what a bunch of absolute numpties that they won't take cash or credit card, and they can't get a credit card.
No, they would
have
taken a credit card, but the credit card machine wasn't working.
Absolutely,
you can only pay by credit card.
Yes, but they wouldn't do it because the machine wasn't working. Is what I meant to say. I don't think your friends have a case legally for the value of the case. How much was the case worth, by the way?
90 quid.
90 quid. Okay, well, it's certainly not worth suing over 90 quid. But if they wanted to, I don't think they'd have a legal case. They would have a case if the airline fails to return it now, although the airline would be quite entitled to charge delivery costs for delivering it, unless your friends were willing to go to the airport and pick it up. But more significantly, from a moral point of view, the airline is on very dodgy ground because it's acted like an absolute idiot if its credit card machine isn't working. It should have just taken the case and said, we'll give you this one for free this time, even though they're not legally obliged to. I think if she or he writes to the Civil Aviation Authority, they'll get a small amount of compensation for the airline's stupidity.
That's what I told them to do. It's not a
legal remedy, but it's a practical common sense remedy.